This message is called Dajjal, which is a strange name that most people have never heard of. Dajjal is the name of a character from Islamic prophecy. Now you might ask, why would we pay the slightest bit of attention to Islamic prophecy? Well, there's some good reasons in this case. It is unreasonably close to New Testament Bible prophecy, and that's just putting it out of place. It's not like prophecies from other religions. It is very similar to, in fact, not just Bible prophecy, but New Testament Bible prophecy. And that's strange, especially because Muslims hate Jews and Christians, and especially Jesus as God, that idea that Jesus was God himself. That disturbs them very badly. And so, in addition to being close, it adds some details that are very interesting and not found in the Bible. Details about the different players in the end times prophecy. But it is a mirror version. We need to understand that. Their bad guy is our good guy, and our bad guy is their good guy. And so they have written themselves, or however this got written, to be what we consider the bad guy is their hero. And so having all of this, it's so close to Bible prophecy, and in fact, New Testament Bible prophecy, but it's a mirror version. Could Muhammad have had such a deep understanding of the Old Testament and the New Testament? Does that make any sense? And we're going to look at one case here where that really doesn't seem to make sense, and that's Dajjal. That's a reference to a very obscure, very short set of verses in the Old Testament that talk about this Dajjal person. They don't call him Dajjal. Dajjal is Islamic or Arabic name. So we have to assume that somebody was helping him get all this. Understand? We just can't believe that he would have this deep an understanding. Most people who study prophecy and have put years of understanding into prophecy don't understand these things. So how could Muhammad have understood them? Someone was helping him. And only angels and Satan could have provided those additional details. Anything else that you might have put in that were additional details wouldn't have matched up, wouldn't have lined up if they were done by himself. So that's the reason that we're paying some attention to it, is that it is so close to Bible prophecy. Now, it needs to be understood, Islamic prophecy does contradict Bible prophecy in places. And so it appears even intentional that whoever did this, whoever provided this information to Muhammad, did it with the intent of deceiving people. It's deceiving Islamic people into believing what's going to happen in the end. Because especially these show up at the very end, these differences. And so where we see a difference happen in some people to what their destiny is, let's say, is very different at the end times than what it says in Islamic prophecy. So there is that difference, and so we have to be aware. We can't use this as prophecy that we would accept like that. But in this case, it's going to be informative. It's going to tell us something. It's going to help point out something that is in the New Old Testament, but we've probably never noticed. So the Old Testament only refers to a single evil person, and we tend to call him the Antichrist, although that's a horrible name to call him. But there is this evil person that is referred to in prophecy many times, but there's only one that we ever see mentioned. We don't ever see more than one evil person mentioned. But the New Testament changes. It refers to two of them, and one of those evil people is the evil person from the Old Testament, and the other one is a new one that is new to the New Testament. And so the Old Testament makes very few mentions of Christianity. I think that that's the reason for this. Their focus is really on the Jews and Israel, that sort of stuff. And so the single evil person that they refer to is the one who really is against Jews and really hates Jews. And so it seems like they've intentionally left out this second person because that would require them to bring in a bunch of other information about Christianity that the Old Testament just didn't want to bring in. So Islamic prophecy, surprisingly, recognizes two evil persons, not one, as you might have expected. And of course, that evil person is from our perspective, from the Islamic perspective. They're wonderful people. And in doing that, also, it correctly identifies their roles. The things that they say about their two evil persons line up pretty well with the two evil persons that we have. And that's what makes this kind of significant. Okay, so not all Sunnis and Shia accept this, but whoever he is, he will be named after Muhammad and his father, and Almighty will come from their lineage. And so um, that part is pretty certain. Now, the second evil person, um, from our perspective, of course, is what's called in Revelation the second beast. He goes under lots of other names. The false prophet is another one of those. Um, the Bible is, again, very unclear about the nature of this person, where he comes from, who he is. We know him again more by what he will do and how he will act. We don't know much about his person or anything like that, his history, genealogy, none of those things. We know that he works to assist the false Messiah. He's second in command to the false Messiah. And Revelation 13 gives him other names. That's where the second beast names come from. And he's also referred to as the 666 person. Now, in Islamic prophecy, this person's name is Jesus or Yeshua in Arabic. So Isa is what that is. Isa is Yeshua in Arabic. Arabic and Hebrew and Aramaic are all sister languages, and so it's a similar name. Um, but Christians wouldn't recognize this person as their Jesus, not at all, because he is the Jesus as Muslims see our Jesus. They claim that Jesus never died, our Jesus never died. He was not God, nor was he ever the Son of God, and he was only just a prophet. And so they consider our Jesus to be nothing more than a prophet. And their Jesus serves to be the second in command to Almighty, doing what Almighty wants him to do. And so that lines him up pretty well with what we understand about the first and the second beast. The second beast serves the first beast. And so this Isa serves Almighty in the same way. Now, there's a whole bunch of bullet points here, and I've actually had to cut this off. There are more that I hope to put on here, but they just won't fit. So the second evil person from the Judeo-Christian view, much is said about the things that he does, and some things about his nature. It says he was like the lamb, but he was speaking like the dragon. Okay, so he made himself to look like Jesus, but he was not. He was speaking something entirely different. And so that lines up with what we've already seen from Isa mentioned there. He'll exercise the power of the first beast, which we recognize as the Antichrist. And that matches up with the Islamic because it says he's going to be subordinate to the Mahdi. He's going to direct all attention off of himself and onto the Mahdi. And we understand from our prophecy that he's going to make everyone to worship that first beast. He's going to perform great signs like bringing fire down from heaven. And those who don't worship its image are going to be murdered. And he's going to cause all these people to receive a mark. And Islamic prophecy says he's going to be a devout Muslim. He's going to institute Islamic Sharia law everywhere. He's going to act as a Muslim evangelist and abolish Christianity. He's going to kill the Dajjal, and here's where we start to see the Dajjal come in, and as well as his Jewish followers, and so that gives us a little bit of a look ahead to what we're going to be talking about. And he persecutes Christians and Jews, forces them to convert or face death. So a lot of those things, especially that persecuting Christians and Jews, lines up very well with what we know about the mark and things that happen there, and so we have those things lining up pretty well. But Islamic prophecy has another evil person, and this person is one that we both agree is evil. From the Judeo-Christian and from the Islamic side, he is an evil person. He's hated by the Mahdi and Isa, and they ultimately kill him. So this Dajjal, again, or Dajjal, that name comes from Islamic prophecy and from Islamic language or Arabic language. So, from the Judeo-Christian religion perspective, this person shows up in just two verses in Zechariah. That's the only place, and that's what makes this strange. Is how could there be such a good lineup here between two verses in Zechariah and what the Islamics believe about this person? And they put a lot more focus on this Dajjal person than we would. In fact, most people who study prophecy know nothing of this person because they never recognize these two verses for what they are. So, from our perspective, there's very little in the Bible about this person, except that he is a deceiver of Israel. And the two verses that we have on him say, "For I am going to raise up a shepherd over the land who will not care for the lost, or seek the young, or heal the injured, or feed the healthy, but will eat the meat of the choice sheep, tearing off their hooves." So he lives for himself. They're going to think, the Jews are going to think he's a shepherd, the Messiah. They're going to think all sort of wonderful things about him. but he's not going to be it. He's going to be in it for himself. Verse 17, woe to the worthless shepherd who deserts the flock. May the sword strike his arm and his right eye. May his arm be completely withered, his right eye totally blinded. Okay, so that's what we have in those two verses about him. From the Islamic perspective, they call him the Messiah deceiver. Um, this is the evil. This is the evil against which Al-Mahdi and Isa fight, and ultimately they prevail against him. So they see this Dajjal person as trying to lead people away from Allah, Al-Mahdi, and Isa, and that trinity that they have. So they say he will be a great deceiver. He will be one-eyed. Now, isn't that interesting? It lines up with what Zacharias says. His right eye totally blinded. Perform false miracles. Claims to be Jesus Christ and will claim to be divine. He will be of Jewish descent. He's going to be killed by the Islamic version of Jesus. Now, we don't see him in the Bible being killed, but we see a sword striking his arm and his right eye, and maybe ultimately that comes to be his death. We don't know all the details there, but we're seeing some interesting things lining up between the two of them that surprise us. So where does this Dajjal fit into prophecy? It appears that there will be a time in the future when the Jews will find the Messiah they've been looking for. And remember, back in Jesus' time, they wanted a conquering king Messiah. And it appears that in the future they're going to find a conquering king Messiah. But it won't be the real Messiah. We know that the real Messiah has come and left, and they've missed him. And he will, of course, be the leader of the Jews because as a conquering king, he's going to be exactly what they're looking for. And we saw in those verses exactly that same idea. And so we ask, where does he fit into prophecy? And the only place he fits in is as the leader of Israel when Jerusalem is conquered by the Antichrist. Okay, and I'm not going to go into the details of why that is. Kind of a long timeline to build that up, at least not in this study. But we do know that he's going to be severely injured or even killed in that attack when Jerusalem is conquered and Israel is conquered. And the Muslim prophecies also talk about this period of time when they conquer Jerusalem and they rape and pillage and take prisoner a whole bunch of Jews. So there's agreement in that as well. And so it seems likely that at this time, when Al-Mahdi and Isa come in to conquer Jerusalem, that's when he is going to be recognized for who he is. And there is a place for him. This fits into Daniel's 70th week pretty well. Now, I did a study on that just a little while ago, and I'll put a link on this that'll lead you back to that if you want to go and look at that, and you should. Because that it does appear that he is not a true believer in Judaism, and he does some things to put an end to Judaism. So keep that all in mind. This Dajjal character may indeed be something that we will see in the end times, and most people haven't recognized as being part of the end times.